Europe came to America expecting chaos. It left counting what Trump could now claim the nation had brought home: economic momentum, renewed national pride, and a country impossible to dismiss. How did a tournament Europe thought it understood become proof of American power? Why did so many visitors return home wondering whether the real shock was not the World Cup, but how badly they had misjudged the United States? This is where the victory truly begins. America's $20 billion victory Europe arrived, expecting a tournament, but America sent it home looking like a business plan with fireworks attached. European coverage before the tournament often pictured America through arguments, prices, and political noise. Then Times Square filled with Spanish shirts, Kansas City restaurants stayed busy, and that old picture began to crack in full view of Europe. For many European visitors, leaving meant carrying home an awkward discovery. The America they had been warned about felt more capable, welcoming, and exciting in person. The surprise was not that America could host football, but how quickly football became fuel for the economy. Bank of America estimated that the 2026 World Cup generated roughly $40 billion across the three host nations, with $20 billion landing in the United States. Economists still debate how much of that estimate becomes lasting public benefit. Even so, the spending patterns became difficult to ignore once June's receipts arrived. BAFA customers spent 5% to 6% more than a year earlier. Card spending rose 6.3% in June, while bars and restaurants gained 3.8%. Air travel and entertainment posted double-digit growth, clothing climbed 7%, and general merchandise rose 5%. European envy becomes understandable after the final whistle and receipts. A match in London can pack pubs around Wembley, and Paris knows how to turn a final into a citywide celebration. America, however, spread that energy across an enormous commercial map. New York and New Jersey reported $1, $2 billion in fan spending, a $2.1 billion economic impact, and $228 million in tax revenue. Kansas City saw revenue per available hotel room rise 90%, while San Francisco recorded a 55% jump. That is less like hosting a party and more like teaching the cash register to sing the national anthem. Donald Trump's biggest post-World Cup gain was therefore larger than one photograph with FIFA President Gianni Infantino. His administration could show that the United States had the scale, stadiums, security, hotels, and consumer power to turn spectacle into local business. After July 19th, the political value remained. America had absorbed visitors, moved huge crowds, filled venues, and kept businesses inside the economic story. Critics are right that FIFA kept much of the television, sponsorship, and ticket revenue, while taxpayers carried significant costs. That tension should not be hidden, because honest accounting makes the achievement more convincing. Yet the American advantage was never limited to money collected at the stadium gate. It was the network surrounding the gate. Restaurants, buses, hotels, shops, airports, entertainment districts, and future bids. Boston was already considering a push for the 2031 Women's World Cup, while Trump left open the possibility of bringing more tournaments to American soil. So what did Trump bring home after the World Cup? Not a gold trophy, but something Europe recognized immediately: leverage. The United States proved that its size was not a burden to manage. It was an engine, and once the world stepped inside, nearly every part of that engine found a way to earn, perform, and invite the world back. America won the room. Europe thought it knew America before the first whistle because the headlines had already supplied the picture: divided, chaotic, expensive, and permanently arguing with itself. Then the tournament placed that picture beside the real country, and suddenly the old version looked like a postcard printed 20 years too early. The deeper victory was not measured at the cash register, it was a victory of reputation. Across 11 American host markets, visitors moved through stadiums, airports, fan zones, highways, downtown districts, and neighborhoods that had spent months preparing for the world. The United States hosted the largest share of a 104-match tournament, turning an event often associated with compact European geography into a continental operation. That difference mattered because Europe usually experiences football through cities built around it. London has Wembley, Madrid has the Bernabeu, Munich has the Allianz Arena, and the sport is stitched into daily life like an old family argument. America approached the same game with a different instinct: widen the stage, add entertainment, welcome entire families, and treat the crowd as part of the performance. That became the cultural surprise European commentary could not easily dismiss. American sports do not ask spectators to arrive, sit quietly, and admire tradition from a respectful distance. They hand the occasion a microphone, park food outside, turn a rival into an event, and make the entire day feel larger than the 90 minutes on the field. A European match day may begin on a train platform and end at a neighborhood pub. In the United States, it can feel as though the Super Bowl, a county fair, and an international festival agreed to share one enormous parking lot. For Trump, that spectacle created something more useful than another campaign slogan. It offered a visible answer to years of claims that America had become too fractured or unreliable to lead a global event. The country did not need to lecture visitors about its strengths. It allowed them to experience those strengths through scale, coordination, energy, and confidence. The political benefit was obvious, even to people who disagreed with him. The tournament allowed Trump to stand beside a successful national production and argue that America could still gather the world without shrinking itself to fit someone else's expectations. European envy then was less about copying American stadiums and more about recognizing America's ability to turn criticism into theater. Paris can deliver elegance, Berlin can deliver precision, and London can deliver football history by the truckload. The United States delivered something harder to reproduce, the feeling that an international event had entered American culture and come out louder, brighter, and somehow more welcoming. That may be the most valuable thing Trump brought home after the World Cup. America gained a repaired image before millions who had arrived expecting dysfunction and instead found a country still capable of organizing enormous moments with confidence. The trophy went elsewhere, but the impression stayed in America, polished, televised, and ready for the next global invitation. Soccer refused to leave. The strangest souvenir America kept from the World Cup was not a medal, a banner, or a famous photograph. It was millions of people treating soccer as if it had always belonged in the neighborhood. That is the part many Europeans may have watched with a little envy. In England, Spain, Germany, and Italy, football usually arrives before a child can spell the name of the club. Families pass down teams the way they pass down recipes, grudges, and stories about a referee from 1998. America, however, came to the game from another direction. It took a tournament, wrapped it in family entertainment, community pride, schoolyard curiosity, and national confidence, then made the sport feel surprisingly local. Post-tournament reporting placed soccer as the fourth most popular sport in the United States. That matters because sports culture is not an empty room waiting for furniture. Football, basketball, baseball, and hockey already occupy enormous space, with enough statistics to keep Thanksgiving arguments alive until dessert. For soccer to move deeper into that crowded house, it needed more than television ratings. It needed children asking for a ball, parents understanding the rules, and neighborhoods seeing the sport as something they could build around. This is where the post-World Cup legacy becomes more interesting than the final score. Dallas created the North Texas Sports Foundation to use sport as a tool for regional development, following a path already proven by the US. Soccer Foundation, which grew from the legacy of the 1994 World Cup and still supports young people in underserved communities. That is not a temporary wave of excitement disappearing with the confetti. It is the American habit of taking a major event, opening the toolbox and asking what can still be standing 20 years later. European countries already possess deep football systems, but they also face limits that familiarity can create. In cities such as Manchester, Milan, or Marseille, football culture is powerful, yet often tied to old loyalties, old rivalries, and clubs with boundaries. America offers a different kind of cultural space for newcomers. New supporters can enter without needing a grandfather's season ticket or a family argument prepared in advance. The culture is younger, looser, and less worried about whether someone learned the songs correctly before kickoff. For Trump, the lasting political prize was a new piece of American identity taking shape under his watch. He could point to a country that welcomed the world's game without surrendering its own personality. Welcoming soccer did not make the country feel any less unmistakably American. America made soccer feel bigger, friendlier, and more open to families who had never cared about the offside rule before June. That may be the deeper achievement Europeans noticed much too late. They came to see whether America could understand football, but they left wondering how quickly America had made football understand America. And once that connection takes root, it rarely packs its bags simply because the tournament has ended and the cameras have moved somewhere else. America kept the blueprint. The most valuable thing America kept may have been invisible, a working manual for handling the world at full volume. A tournament can disappear quickly once the final ends. The banners come down, the fences vanish, and the last fan finally finds the correct airport terminal. What remains is the knowledge of how to move people, coordinate agencies, protect crowded public spaces, organize transportation, and keep an enormous event from turning into a national group project where nobody read the instructions. That is where the United States gained something Europe could immediately recognize. Germany hosted Euro 2024 across 10 cities inside one country, supported by dense rail links and relatively short travel distances. America handled most of a 1 of 4 match World Cup across 11 host markets, separated by thousands of miles in 4 continental time zones. A supporter traveling between New York and Los Angeles was not changing neighborhoods. That journey covered roughly the same distance as crossing much of Europe. Yet the tournament still had to feel like one connected event. New York offered a useful lesson. MetLife Stadium sat about 8 kilometers from Manhattan, which meant the host city and the match venue operated across a state line. During the group stage alone, the shuttle service sold 69,179 tickets and collected about $1.4 million. Those numbers are less glamorous than a last-minute goal, but they reveal the machinery underneath the spectacle. Thousands of strangers had to receive directions, board buses, pass security, and arrive on time without turning the New Jersey Turnpike into the world's longest tailgate. This is the kind of institutional memory that survives after the crowds leave. New York Council member Virginia Maloney described the experience as a possible guidebook for future events, so officials would not need to begin from zero each time. That may sound like bureaucracy, but anyone who has watched a city discover road closures in real time knows a tested plan can be worth more than another tourism campaign. That lesson matters because New York and New Jersey committed about $503 million to major events during the summer, with much of it connected to the World Cup. When taxpayers help purchase experience at that price, the smartest return is making sure the same knowledge serves the next event instead of retiring with the souvenir scarves. For Trump, the political prize was clear. He could point to proof that America had managed a sprawling international event while preserving the loud, flexible character that makes the country unmistakably American. Future tournaments could now be discussed with something stronger than confidence: a tested operating record. Europe has magnificent stadiums and deep event experience, from Wembley to Munich. America's advantage was different. It showed that a nation built on distance could turn distance into a management skill. The country did not shrink the World Cup to make it easier. It learned how to run the complicated version. That is a legacy presidents understand because trophies decorate a room, while the reliable playbook keeps opening doors after the photographers go home. America was already ready. One of the sharpest criticisms after the World Cup accidentally sounded like a compliment. America gained little new infrastructure because most of what the tournament needed was already standing. That detail matters more than it first appears. Many host nations spend years preparing for a major tournament by building venues that look magnificent during the opening ceremony and begin asking uncomfortable questions once the crowds disappear. America approached 2026 from the opposite direction. The country did not need to invent a sports system for one summer because it already possessed a network of enormous, frequently used stadiums supported by hotels, highways, airports, parking, media facilities, and year-round entertainment. MetLife Stadium can hold more than 82,000 people. AT&T Stadium regularly welcomes crowds of around 80,000, while Arrowhead Stadium has a capacity above 76,000. Sophie Stadium, Mercedes-Benz Stadium, Levi's Stadium, and the other American venues were not decorative monuments waiting for FIFA to give them a purpose. They already hosted NFL games, concerts, college football, international exhibitions, corporate events, and enough nacho cheese to qualify as a minor natural resource. European football has legendary grounds with histories that American venues cannot copy, and nobody should pretend otherwise. Wembley carries generations of memory, while Madrid and Munich have stadium cultures built over decades. Yet smaller host markets in Europe have sometimes faced a different problem after major tournaments. Cities such as Aveiro and Leiria in Portugal spent heavily on stadiums for Euro 2004, only to confront years of debate about maintenance costs and limited regular attendance afterward. The buildings remained impressive, but an impressive building still sends a bill every month. America's advantage was that the World Cup entered facilities already woven into local commercial life. When the tournament ended, those venues did not need a new identity. Their calendars simply moved to the next event. The lights stayed useful, the parking lot stayed busy, and the giant video boards continued doing what giant American video boards apparently do best, making every human being on the field look visible from another county. This gave Trump a particularly powerful result to carry forward. He could argue that future global events would not require America to construct an entirely new stage before inviting the world back. The stage was already there, tested by weekly crowds and supported by industries accustomed to operating at scale. That changes the tone of every future bid because readiness is far more convincing when it comes with turnstiles, broadcast booths, and a booked calendar. Some critics saw the lack of new stadium construction as evidence that the tournament left no physical legacy. Many Europeans likely saw something else, a country so prepared that it did not need to build proof of its strength. America's legacy was the realization that its ordinary sports infrastructure already looked extraordinary when viewed through international eyes. Trump therefore brought home more than memories from a successful summer. He gained evidence that America could host the world again without waking up the next morning surrounded by beautiful buildings nobody knew how to use. Trump's unity dividend? The quietest thing Trump brought home from the World Cup never appeared on a balance sheet, yet millions of Americans could feel it whenever a packed crowd rose together. For several weeks, the country discovered a rare subject that did not immediately become another exhausting political argument: Families watched together, strangers celebrated beside one another, and cities with little in common suddenly shared the same countdown, the same anthem, and the same nervous glance toward the scoreboard. In a nation often described through division, that shared rhythm became one of the tournament's most valuable surprises. This was what sports economists call psychic income, although the phrase sounds like someone tried to invoice happiness. It describes the pride, belonging, and collective memory created by a major event, even when those feelings cannot be measured like hotel revenue or ticket sales. Researchers quoted after the tournament argued that unclear financial returns did not erase these social benefits because a country can gain something meaningful whenever citizens briefly see themselves as part of the same story. Europe understands that power better than almost anyone. Football can unite an entire country, yet it often arrives carrying decades of regional identity. In Spain, loyalties surrounding Madrid, Barcelona, and the Basque Country can stretch far beyond sport. Belgium's national team represents a country divided among Dutch-speaking, French-speaking, and German-speaking communities. The United Kingdom even enters international football through separate teams for England, Scotland, Wales, and Northern Ireland. Those traditions are rich and deeply loved, but they show how easily football can reflect the borders already present within society. America offered a different picture during 2026. Supporters arrived wearing dozens of national colors, while the host nation wrapped the whole occasion in one unmistakably American atmosphere. The crowds were diverse, the accents changed from block to block, and the political opinions probably remained as complicated as ever. Yet inside the celebration, nobody needed to pass an ideological exam before joining the party. That cultural openness gave Trump something unusually difficult for any president to manufacture: a national moment that felt shared rather than ordered from Washington. The administration could stand beside the tournament, but the emotion belonged to ordinary Americans who filled public spaces, welcomed visitors, and turned match days into community occasions. Even in New York, where officials continued debating costs and long-term returns, local leaders acknowledged that restaurants, neighborhoods, families, and strangers had become more connected during the event. This may explain why some European visitors became unexpectedly attached to America. They had heard that the country was too divided to agree on anything, then found themselves inside a celebration where difference did not prevent belonging. America did not ask everyone to become identical. It simply made enough room for everyone to cheer. That is a deeply American kind of unity, because it behaves less like a choir singing one perfect note and more like a backyard cookout where 12 conversations are happening at once, yet somebody still remembers to save you a plate. Trump did not return from the World Cup with the championship trophy. He came away with proof that the American public could still gather around a common experience, feel proud without apologizing, and welcome the world without losing its own voice. Football chose. America-Europe may still own football's oldest songs, but after 2026, America owns something nearly as powerful: the market everyone wanted to enter. That became clear when FIFA projected more than $15 billion in revenue from the tournament, crushing its earlier $11 billion forecast. The number did not rise because the goals were somehow more expensive in the United States. It rose because America turned every layer of the event into a product people were willing to pay for, from premium hospitality and VIP packages to a secondary ticket market carrying combined fees of up to 30%. Somewhere in Europe, a traditionalist probably clutched a paper ticket and sighed deeply. Somewhere in America, a luxury suite had already added another dessert station. This was never simply a story about unusually high prices. It revealed a shift in football's center of commercial gravity. Europe remains the cultural heart of the sport, with clubs such as Real Madrid, Bayern Munich, and Manchester United carrying histories that cannot be manufactured. Yet those major European markets are already mature and deeply established. Stadium traditions are fixed, fan identities are inherited, and many supporters expect the game to protect at least some distance from pure entertainment. Germany, for example, is widely admired for a matchday culture that has long emphasized supporter access, standing sections, and comparatively affordable attendance. America entered the competition without those deeply inherited commercial limits. It treated football as a blank stage where sport, celebrity, food, music, technology, and corporate hospitality could share the same spotlight. To a European purist, that entire approach may look excessive. To a global sponsor, it looks like several revenue streams wearing the same jersey. That is why the post-World Cup advantage mattered to Trump. He could point to evidence that the United States was no longer merely renting space in football's global economy. America had become one of its most valuable customers, and valuable customers eventually gain influence. Tournament organizers, broadcasters, sponsors, and federations now had a powerful reason to keep the United States near the center of future decisions. American audiences did not merely watch the spectacle, they enlarged it. The contrast becomes easy to see once the match begins. A historic European stadium can sell tradition with almost no decoration because the memories already live in the concrete. An American venue sells the entire evening, from parking and pre-game entertainment to giant screens, premium seating, branded experiences, and enough food choices to make halftime resemble a small airport terminal. Neither model is automatically better, but only one was still expanding at this speed. What Trump brought home, therefore, was commercial leverage disguised as a football tournament. The trophy belonged to Spain, while the most important business lesson stayed in the United States. Global football had discovered that America was not a side market waiting to be educated. It was a giant customer with a full wallet, a taste for spectacle, and enough confidence to ask when the next event would arrive. Europe may have taught the world how to love football, but America just reminded the world how large football could become. The final whistle ended the tournament, but it did not end America's victory. What remained was a stronger image, a larger global influence, and proof that this country can welcome the world without losing its own character. Perhaps that is the real legacy Trump brought home after 2026. Which achievement do you believe will matter most in the years ahead? Share your view with us below, and subscribe to the channel for more stories about America through the world's eyes.